By all the laws of history, the United States should have collapsed decades ago. Usually, when an empire spends trillions on failing wars and sinks into $38 trillion of debt, it dies. That is the iron law of history. It happened to Rome. It happened to the British, and it happens to everyone else. But for America, the opposite happened. The more money they print, the more the world wants it. The deeper they go into debt, the more powerful they become. Even as they fight endless wars, they don't weaken, they rise. That alone should feel strange. It's like a glitch in the system. To see this glitch in action, look at Russia in 2022. While everyone expected a war of tanks, the deadliest move didn't come from a missile. It came from a keyboard. With a few clicks, the US deleted $300 billion of Russia's savings. No bombs fell on Moscow. No American soldiers crossed the border. Yet the Russian economy was set on fire, instantly. Their money became ghost ink, useless numbers on a screen they could no longer touch. This is how power works today. Most people think America is a superpower because of its military. But China now has more ships, and Russia has just as many nuclear weapons. Others say it's the economy. But China's factories now produce more than America's do. So here's the uncomfortable question no one likes to ask. What if America's real power isn't tanks, or missiles, or factories at all? What if the only reason the United States is still a superpower is something you carry in your pocket, but almost never think about? The US dollar. Because the dollar isn't just cash. It's an invisible web the entire world is trapped in. It gives Washington powers no army can match. The power to borrow cheaply, almost forever. The power to make other countries pay for its inflation. And the power to crush an enemy without firing a single shot. And once you understand how deeply the dollar is embedded into the global system, you'll realize why replacing it is far harder than headlines make it sound. And why the world isn't just using American money, it's trapped in it. To understand how we got here, we have to look at what being a superpower actually means in 2026. In today's world, power doesn't work the way it used to. Back then, power was visible. It marched in uniform. It flew flags. It was measured in tanks, territory, and troop numbers. But the modern world doesn't work like that anymore. Today, power is less about domination and more about leverage. It's not about who can destroy the most. It's about who can shape outcomes, quietly, indirectly, and at scale. And once you look at power through that lens, many explanations start to fall apart. Yes, the United States still has the most powerful military on Earth. Its reach is global, its technology is unmatched. But military dominance is no longer exclusive. China fields the world's largest standing army. Russia maintains nuclear parity. Regional powers can raise the cost of intervention. Military power still matters, but it no longer explains system-wide influence. History is clear. Strong armies never guarantee long-term dominance. Maybe it's the economy. The United States is still one of the largest economies in the world, but it no longer stands alone. China rivals America in trade volume, industrial output, and supply chain depth. Other economies dominate key sectors, resources, and regions. Economic size creates influence, but size alone does not grant control. If it did, the global balance of power would already look very different. Then there's technology. For decades, Silicon Valley was the world's high-tech throne. American firms built the platforms, the protocols, and the digital architecture of our modern life. If you were online, you were on an American playground. But innovation is a leaky bucket. Skills spread, competitors catch up. Today, the tech monopoly is cracking. TikTok, a Chinese app, dominates the attention of every American teenager. Companies like Huawei and BYD are building hardware that rivals the best of the West. In 2026, technology is no longer a secret American club. It's a global race, where the lead is shrinking every single day. And what about culture? For a century, Hollywood was the world's storyteller. Global dreams were made in America. But look at the box office today. In 2025, the highest-grossing film on the entire planet wasn't a Marvel sequel or a Disney reboot. It was Ne Zha 2, a Chinese animated epic that brought in over $2 billion, leaving Hollywood in the rearview mirror. Cultural influence is fragmenting. Local heroes are replacing American icons. People aren't just consuming the American dream anymore, they are building their own. Culture shapes how people think, but it no longer guarantees who leads. So here's the contradiction. America's power is contested in every traditional category: military, economic, technological, cultural, and yet, the United States still exerts an outsized influence over the global order, not loudly, not visibly, but structurally. Which raises a far more interesting question. What kind of power operates beneath all of these, shaping outcomes without needing to win in any single category? Imagine a country facing a crisis. Its currency is losing value. Imports are spiking, investors are pulling out. The government doesn't call its army. It doesn't fire a missile. Instead, it needs one thing: dollars. That's the hidden truth. The US dollar is not just money. It is the invisible infrastructure of the global system. And that dominance didn't happen overnight. After World War II, the Bretton Woods system made the dollar the anchor for global trade. For decades, currencies were pegged to it. In 1971, the US removed the gold backing, letting the dollar float freely. To keep it on top, Washington made a secret deal in 1974. America would protect Saudi Arabia if the Saudis sold their oil only in dollars. This petrodollar forced the world to keep using the greenback to keep their lights on. And since then, the dollar has remained the world's primary reserve currency, trusted and used everywhere. Over decades, the dollar became embedded into every layer of global trade, finance, and reserves. Today, the scale is staggering. Around $2.4 trillion circulate worldwide. Roughly half of that is held outside the United States. Even more striking, about 80% of all $100 bills are outside the US, and nearly half of all $50 bills circulate abroad. In 2025, almost 90% of all international transactions involved the US dollar. The dollar also remains the dominant reserve currency, holding close to 60% of the world's foreign reserves. Compare that to China's yuan, just 2%. And this isn't just numbers on a ledger. Commodities like oil, gold, coffee, and countless others are traded globally in dollars. Payments, loans, and contracts across the world default to it. This is why the United States still shapes global outcomes even when its armies aren't moving. Military strength, economic size, technology, and culture all matter. But none of them alone explains how the US maintains influence across the world. The dollar sits underneath all of it. It anchors trade, it stabilizes finance, it allows the US to act decisively, quietly, efficiently, and almost invisibly. And yet, most people think of it as just money. That misconception is exactly why this power is so hard to see. Because once you stop seeing the dollar as cash and start seeing it as infrastructure, a different picture emerges. This is where the real power shows itself. The dollar doesn't just sit in wallets or vaults, it acts. It shapes outcomes. It allows the United States to export inflation, borrow cheaply, almost indefinitely, and influence global crises without ever needing to fire a shot. And that's what we'll uncover next. The mechanisms that make this currency the last real superpower. The dollar doesn't just exist. It shapes the rules of the global game. And it does this through a few mechanisms, each of them subtle, yet extremely powerful. It's not obvious at first glance, but each of these moves quietly shapes the world in ways most people never notice. First, the dollar lets the United States export inflation. Imagine the US prints money to fund its spending. Normally, that would devalue the currency at home. Prices rise, purchasing power falls. But because the dollar dominates global trade, the effects don't stop at US borders. Other countries buying oil, commodities, or goods in dollars absorb part of that inflation. Think about the 2008 financial crisis. The US pumped trillions into its economy. Prices in America rose modestly. But outside America, countries holding dollars, through trade or reserves, shared much of the cost. The result? The United States can expand its money supply without suffering the full consequences itself. In simple terms, the world shares the cost of America's spending. But the dollar's power doesn't stop there. It also lets the United States tap resources almost effortlessly, borrowing more than most countries could ever dream of. The dollar allows the US to borrow at extremely low interest rates, often cheaper than any country in history. US Treasury bonds are the most sought-after asset in the world. Investors buy them because they trust the system. That trust allows the US to run massive deficits year after year, borrowing trillions while paying relatively little interest. Think about it. Most countries would collapse under this level of debt. The United States doesn't. Its borrowing costs stay low, not because of discipline, but because of the dollar's global dominance. And while borrowing is powerful, the dollar also gives America a different kind of leverage, one that can shape economies and compel action without a single bullet being fired. The US dollar also gives America the power to punish countries, the power to delete an enemy from the global economy. Because almost all global trade flows through dollars, the US controls the pipes. If Washington doesn't like what you're doing, they don't have to send a carrier strike group. They just flip a switch and cut you off from the banks. When a country is cut off, they can't buy food from abroad. They can't sell their resources. Their local money becomes worthless overnight. Take Iran or Russia as the ultimate examples. No missiles were fired at their banks, no soldiers seized their gold. But by weaponizing the dollar, the US essentially put a digital fence around their entire country. This is the ultimate leverage. No other country has this kill switch, because no other country's money is the world's OS. This is why even America's biggest rivals still hold billions in US debt, because if they leave the system, they lose their ability to function in the modern world. And guess what? That leverage the dollar gives extends beyond punishment. The US dollar also gives America a unique power that no other country could imagine. It lets the United States spend more than it earns year after year without collapsing. Because the dollar is the world's main money for trade, savings, and debt, other countries need it to buy oil, trade goods, and protect their economies. To get those dollars, they sell products to the US or buy treasury bonds. This means America can import more than it exports and still pay its bills. Think about it. Japan and China hold trillions in US treasuries. By buying those bonds, they help fund America's spending while protecting their own economies. Any normal country doing this would face a financial crisis. The United States doesn't. Global demand for the dollar makes permanent deficits possible, without the usual punishment. That reach isn't just financial, because the dollar gives America global influence, quietly, decisively, without sending troops. When crises strike, financial, political, or natural, countries and companies turn to the dollar and US institutions for stability. That influence shapes negotiations, trade deals, and even peace processes. For example, during global oil shocks, US dollar policy can determine who pays more, who adapts, and who struggles to survive. The point is simple: power that no army could achieve. Money makes it possible. So now you see why the dollar is not just money. It allows the United States to spend, borrow, punish, and influence on a scale unmatched by armies or alliances. Military might, economic size, technological innovation, cultural reach, all impressive, all visible. But the true superpower lies beneath them all, in the dollar itself. And the next question is even more fascinating. If the dollar is so dominant, why hasn't someone just replaced it? You've seen the headlines. China, Russia, and the BRICS nations are trying to build a new system. They want to escape the dollar trap. But in 2026, the reality is much messier than the news makes it sound. Replacing the dollar isn't like switching from an iPhone to an Android. It's like trying to rebuild the entire internet from scratch. To replace the dollar, a new currency needs three things that no one else has yet: trust, liquidity, and scale. Take China's yuan. China has a massive economy, but their government tightly controls their money. If you are a global investor, do you really want to keep your life savings in a currency that a government can freeze or devalue overnight, with no legal recourse? Then there's the euro. It's powerful, but it's managed by dozens of different countries with different goals. When one country's economy shakes, the whole currency trembles. And then there's the biggest hurdle of all: liquidity. If you sell $10 billion worth of oil, you need to be able to turn that money into something else: gold, real estate, or other goods, instantly. The US Treasury market is the only place on Earth deep enough to handle that much money without breaking. Every other alternative right now is like a small back road, while the dollar is a 12-lane superhighway. This is why de-dollarization is moving at a snail's pace. It's not that the world loves the dollar, it's that the world is addicted to the convenience and safety the dollar provides. For now, the superpower doesn't need to win a war to stay on top. It just needs to remain the only system that actually works. Yet, this doesn't mean the dollar is untouchable. Subtle forces could challenge it, but they need decades, coordination, and trust to have a real effect. So, what could actually weaken this invisible superpower? That's where the story's biggest surprise waits. If the dollar is this dominant, can anything really challenge it? The answer might surprise you. It's not a new army. It's not China's economy. It's not a single technology or trade deal. The real threat is trust and dependency. Imagine a world where countries no longer need dollars to trade oil, pay for goods, or store savings, where global contracts are written in multiple currencies and reserves are spread across alternatives. Slowly, over time, the dollar's invisible grip would loosen. The remarkable part? Even then, its decline wouldn't be sudden. Decades of dominance give the dollar inertia. The change would be gradual, controlled, yet unstoppable. The true surprise: the dollar's power isn't just strength. It's the world's reliance on it. That makes it both unshakable and eventually replaceable. So next time someone talks about superpowers, remember, it's not tanks, carriers, or tech. It's the money we use every day. And if you want to see the world differently, understanding these invisible powers before everyone else, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because knowledge like this doesn't just inform, it changes the way you see everything.